Good afternoon, good morning, and thank you for attending this session today. We're going to talk about this fast-growing field of impact analysis, tell you much more about that. Apologies if there was any confusion on the timing. Just a little bit of a scheduling challenge that we had, so I apologize. I think it may have been sent to you as 11 o'clock Eastern time, and it really is, as you know, 12 o'clock. So we've got about almost 90 people signed up for today. So I know a number of you are live, and I appreciate that. And those that are listening to this in post, we're going to send out the video via email to everyone after this session. So you'll be able to watch it, rewatch it, and if there's any questions, I am going to leave my email at the end of this. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions at all, or throw them in the Q&A as we're going through this. I welcome my colleagues, Jason in the background and Christina, and I'm delighted to tell you more about this program as we're going through it. So first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we're on today. Well, we meet today on a virtual platform. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all of the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. Please join me in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the effect of residential schools and colonialism on Indigenous families and communities, and to consider how we are and can each, in our own way, try to move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Welcome. Welcome to Queen's University. Welcome to the Smith School of Business. Welcome to the CPIA program. I'm delighted to be here and join you today. And this is going to be an overview of the Certificate in Professional Impact Analysis. Our next class starts January 12th, not too soon to join up. We've got people that are already in the program and have lined up for January. So again, I'll tell you how to do that. And also, we've got a session lined up next week where we're going to meet with our professor, a live session, which I'll invite you to as well. But it's going to be an overview of the program, talk about all the elements of it, the content, meet a student from the last cohort who was in the program and has her CPIA designation now. And she can tell you all about her background and the application of this to her profession. And we'll give you more information about the program and signing up as well. So that'll be sent out to you in addition to the video that we'll send out after. But again, throw any questions you've got in the Q&A. Happy to answer them. My name is Glenn Hollis. I'm an MBA program leader from Queen's University Business School and ran the accelerated program here at Queen's. And I now run the CPIA program as part of the Queen's University Business School, Smith, as well as the Center for Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Social Impact. So today we're going to talk about this program, this thing that we've created, and it's quite interesting because it's the only program that measures good. And again, you can think about what that means. I'll try and give you some more information, give you a sense of what we're talking about here. But the story here is about great brands, great companies, great organizations, whatever you're a part of, and they have this greater sense of purpose. They care about people, planet, and communities. This may be from a CSR, corporate social responsibility point of view, or maybe from product development. It may be from, kind of onset and mindset when it comes to their focus and what they do. And this could be organizations that are for-profit, not-for-profit, government of all three levels, NGOs, etc. So these leaders and these brands, they put their money and their head and heart in the right place, and they want to do good. And that's a noble thing. And a lot of companies know they've got employees, people that have joined them, investors, what have you, that want to also be part of an organization that makes an impact. Well, we're about measuring impact and how can we continue to, really continue the story on doing good, as well as in some cases doing well. And those two are not mutually exclusive. So our mission here is pretty focused. We want to enable leaders like yourself to measure good with the sole purpose of being able to do more good. And this is something that is a noble cause, but it's also something that's more and more asked for in the workplace. And that's why we're setting up this program and teaching people about this approach and methodology to be able to build leaders for tomorrow. Organizations want these leaders who can measure impact. So what are impact projects? Well, think of good that organizations do. They fall into at least a couple of macro camps. Community and societal betterment projects, think CSR, things like Run for the Cure, Tim Hortons Children's Foundation, or there may be government organizations on all three levels, provincial, municipal, federal, that are, or NGOs that are really engaged in projects, investments that are doing good. And you can think of World Vision, feeding children, organizations like governments building roads, after school programs, etc. There's also business for good investments. And this is really, in the approach of organizations that exist, but they're very focused on creating products or services that are, also good for the environment, good for the world, good for the community. And there's a number of examples, and we'll get into some of those examples as we get into some of the case studies. But I can think of a former student that was in the accelerated MBA program who was a senior executive at Ocean Steel, and his customers were asking about green steel. Is that a good thing? And those are the kind of things that we definitely want to ensure that we get a part of. But here's something that I'm going to tell you when it comes to this question of how do you measure these good investments? It's one thing to do them, and a lot of times they're measured, really with proxies. But how can you actually measure them? And can you measure them? And we measure all sorts of things, whether it's financial performance, customer satisfaction, productivity. But few know how to credibly measure impact. And they're asked to more and more by shareholders and stakeholders and investors. How can you measure those and put them right alongside financial measures? So the good news is now you can do this. And we're going to arm you in this program with methods, case studies, practices, content, and really, the ability to measure good or measure projects. And this is a growing field because we're getting more and more requirements and requests to be able to measure the return on investment for social investments. So why is it important to measure impact? Well, customers and employees, governments, organizations, influencers are asking for it more and more. It's one thing to have these programs, involved in doing good or impact projects, but being able to actually credibly say, we did this, we moved the needle in this way, and report that back to stakeholders is increasingly more and more important. So we bring this ability to you to measure good, again, so you can do more good. And again, think of this in the way that you would financial measurements. You've got financial accounting, you've got corporate reports, annual reports, and this is about the ability to adhere to compliance and reporting, but ultimately it enables leaders like yourself to make better decisions. And that's the same thing that we're talking about when it comes to impact projects. And this is being able to have better, rigorous, evidence-based measures, empirical measures, beyond just proxies or I think I'm doing good, I think we're doing well. And we want to be able to provide you with those tools, techniques, templates, et cetera, and cases where they've conducted this kind of rigorous impact measurement in the past. So how do we do this? Well, this program is going to teach you how to do that. We're going to really break it into three areas, one being impact foundations, defining the impact of organizations. The second module being impact accounting, and don't be afraid of this. It's not accounting as we know it, but more about cost-benefit analysis. How do you put the right kind of measures against these things? And we're not asking anybody to be mathematicians. I'm certainly not. And I've gone through the program, and I've finished it, and I've really enjoyed it. And the third area is evaluating and learning and reporting, telling the story, putting the story together in a rigorous, evidence-based way, but then being able to tell a very compelling story and narrative around here's what we've done, and here's what it's done to help improve the world or improve our own profitability, but doing it in a way that also helps community, environment, etc. So let me tell you a little bit more about the content and delivery approach. And again, throw any questions you may have into the Q&A. Happy to answer those at the end. So it's 3 modules, all are online and recorded lectures, but at the end of each of the lecture sessions, after the 4 weeks, we've got a capstone, and this is a live day. It'll be virtual because you'll stay where you are. You'll be at your home, your business, wherever you might be, and be able to take in these lectures, watch them, rewatch them. There'll be mini quizzes, there'll be mini assignments, and that culminates in a capstone session at the end of each of the three modules. And that's where you gather together with the professors, you gather together with coaches, all of your colleagues in the program, network, talk about it. You'll also go through case studies to bring it to life. And these effective approaches have proven to be a very solid way to deliver this idea of measuring empirically and with evidence impact. And there's also an opportunity to have live coffee sessions, chat sessions with the professors every week. So any questions you've got, or you may riff off on a particular area. A lot of times professors have talked about the impact of tariffs when it comes to looking at things that have a sense of impact to them. And then there's a final certification exam at the end of all of the three modules where you will be certified as a CPIA. The program cost is $7,500, and that can be broken into modules of $2,500 per module, and includes everything. Everything that I've talked about, the lectures, the content, the quizzes, the assignments, the final certification, access to professors, capstone days, coaches, etc. And of course, there'll be an issue of a T2202 tax deductible form at the end of that to be able to write that off against income. And this is designed to be accessible. This is designed to give you a 6-month overview of the content and provide you full certification. And again, we can talk about opportunities when it comes to bursaries and scholarships and some of the multiple discount availability. 3 professors. We've got Dr. Elspeth Murray. She's a strategy professor from the business school. She also runs the Center for Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Social Impact. We've got Dr. Balin Kashi and also Dr. Chris Cotton. Both Dr. Kashi and Dr. Cotton are from the economics department at Queen's, and they really created this program, and we brought it into the business school to bring it to life in a broader way. In addition to not-for-profit NGO, government, we've also extended and broadened it out to include for-profit and businesses. And that's the kind of thrust of what's gone on. We've got a cohort in right now. We had one in from January to June, the one from July to December, just finished their second module, just finished their second capstone, and they're finishing off with this final third module, which starts next week. So I want to talk a little bit about each of the 3 modules. Module 1 is about impact foundations, and this is really to give you an overview of the concept of impact, different dimensions. It'll be brought to life with a toolkit, a toolbox, if you will, as well as case studies, examples, ways to bring it to life so that you can truly understand it. And then, of course, there's the capstone at the end of this module. The second module is what we call impact accounting. And this is really the ability to create measures to track, document, report. Cost-benefit analysis is what it is. Looking at ways that you can put really a measure against the activity that's going on in a particular impact project so that you can compare and contrast it between other projects. You want to be able to ultimately say, yes, this is doing what we intended it to do. And we're going to provide you with tools and case studies and different templates and examples to do that. And then there will be another module, another capstone module at the end of this module, number 2. The third and final module is called Evaluating and Learning. This is really looking at ways to evaluate, measure, report, basically tell a good story, critical to lead and influence, and putting all those approaches and measures together through cases and examples. And again, another capstone at the end of this module. And this is spread out over 6 months, these 3 modules, intentionally designed to be accessible, intentionally designed to be flexible. Rewatch the videos so that you can do this in your home or do it at work. Let me talk a little bit about some impact cases, and we're just finishing off the overview of the session now. So again, I welcome any questions at the end of this. But to give you a sense of some of the impact cases, Coca-Cola is an example. They were looking at switching to social plastic, and this idea of recycled plastic. Is it socially justifiable? How can we put a measure against that? Is it financially viable? Critically important, because this is really business for good. And then is it feasible? Can we roll it out to other parts of the world, parts of our organization? RBC is looking at ESG, socially viable investment vehicles, social return on investments. Is it a defensible methodology? And is there additional data that we require to really bring it to life to prove the point? Tourmaline Oil. Tourmaline Oil was looking to switch to natural gas powered production machinery. And as a traditional oil-based organization, they wanted to understand what is the impact on GHG, greenhouse gas emissions, and is it net financial and economically viable? What is the impact of that? We need to report to our employees, to our shareholders, to our suppliers, to our customers. Is this a viable approach we need to take? The World Health Organization, very interested in food safety and investments around that particular infrastructure. They wanted to understand, is it cost viable? Can we roll it out? How do we measure the improvements? And how does it value the benefits of health and trade? And that's something that they needed to put a measure against to be able to report out to their donations and their investors. Tim Hortons Children's Foundation, I was part of the Tim Hortons group, and we were really looking at ways to measure the foundation. And beyond simply, we all feel in our gut it's a good thing. You know, there's a interesting book called More Than Good Intentions. And this is good intentions. These economically disadvantaged children across 6 camps in Canada and US. We know we're doing a good thing. We know that we're taking children from economically disadvantaged homes. But the question was, are we moving the needle? Can we measure this? And putting into place measures where we can track these students, these individuals that would go to camp, then do they finish high school? Do they go on to post-secondary? Do they go on to do good things? And this is the kind of measure we needed to have in place to validate additional investments. Or do we want to make a decision? Do we need to make a decision about investing into Tim Hortons, hockey, Timbit hockey, or other projects, Smile Cookie, that may be moving the needle from a community improvement in a much more dramatic way? And then finally, from a business for good side of Tim Hortons, the corporation itself, we were looking at, being a part of fair trade coffee, or as we ultimately decided upon, do we want to create our own coffee partnership program where we're building the strength and capability of small shareholder farmers, where they are becoming more viable farmers, better yield, better crop, better product, and ultimately better for us. But are we also building the community side, education, environment as part of that? And then also things like fair hiring practices and really looking at our fleet and saying, do we want to convert that to something other than gas-powered vehicles? I mentioned Ocean Steel at the start of this. One of our students that was in the accelerated MBA program, senior executive, had more and more demands from his clients. They were asking about green steel when they were looking at procuring products, elements to use in their building. And in addition to traditional approaches to steel production, Stephen really needed to look at, is it good for the world, this green steel? Is it good for the company? Are we going to make money? There's no shame in doing well and doing good. And in fact, more and more demand for that kind of balance. And the question really became, can we do both? And that's part of what we look at when we think about ways to measure. So who should attend the program? Well, you're on the call or listening to this. You've got some level of leadership now, or you've got a desire to lead in this space. We put together additional sessions as well during the program. One of the coffee chats and fireside chats we had during the program over those 6 months was Louise Kent. And Louise is the Chief Impact Officer at Mighty Hum. And she was really talking about her journey. What was her educational journey? What was her career journey? And really, she is as interested as you are in this area of impact and measuring impact. And that's what we try to build and empower when we put this program into place. So it is about building leaders of tomorrow. We know there's jobs of tomorrow that are all are in and around this space. So we definitely wanted to create a program that was not just about, we think it's doing well. We think we're doing good when it comes to moving the needle. but it really was about more and more the demand for empirical measures. How can we say we're moving the needle with evidence? And that's what this program is about. As Dr. Kashi says, the chief impact officers of tomorrow will need the foundational knowledge to choose the most relevant frameworks and methods to define, measure, manage, monitor, evaluate an organization's impact. This could be for-profit, it could be not-for-profit. And critically, delivering this message to shareholders, stakeholders, investors, whatever it might be, are you doing what you set out to do when we look at these impact programs? The CIBC invests a lot into Run for the Cure. Are we actually moving the needle? And how can we measure that? World Health Organization, as I mentioned, breakfast programs or food quality and integrity. Are we moving the needle? So I said I would send out my email, or at least post it. You can see that. Please feel free to send me any questions you may have. Any questions you have, throw them into the Q&A, or go to our website. You can look up CPIA, Queen's CPIA, Certificate in Professional Impact Analysis, whatever, and look at much more detail as far as this program. And I am going to send this out in post after. I will send out this video. And I'm also going to send an invitation to meet with Dr. Kashi next week live during a session. It's next Thursday. You can pencil that in at 12 o'clock. So a week today at the same time. And you're going to meet with one of the former students from the program as well. And also listen to Dr. Kashi talk about, the program and the overview from his perspective as a professor, as the academic lead. And also talk about opportunities. We'll share and network with, start that networking session with people as soon as next week. So I invite you to join us in January. I'd love it if you would. And again, I entertain any questions that may be in the Q&A. And again, if not, feel free to send me individual questions after. And one of the questions we had was around this space of, is it mathy? And Dr. Cotton, who teaches in the program as well, is very clear that the math, or the spreadsheets really, it's not math, but the spreadsheets you'll do are about cost-benefit analysis. And there are a few of them, not many. But in the second module, we look at that focus. And it's about really understanding ideas and knowing how to think about social costs and benefits. So as he says, at the end of the day, those who come in uncomfortable with economics and math will leave being comfortable with looking at and thinking about numbers and analysis as it relates to measuring impact. So again, I wanted to put away any fear in that space. This is about looking at rigor and evidence when it comes to measuring impact. So again, please feel free to send me any questions you've got. I'd be happy to answer them. And I really hope you join the program. We've got a great cohort that's setting up for January. And again, really interested in moving more and more people into the space of understanding how to measure impact. So I'll thank Jason and Christina in the background, and you will get this sent out to you. And again, thank you for your time. I did want to keep this to 30 minutes or less, and I'd be happy to answer questions after. All the best. Take care.